My full name is Barbara Anita Kaiser Collier.
Can you tell me what tribal nations you're a citizen of?
Quapaw Nation only.
Did you get your ancestry from your father or your mother?
My mother.
What was she like? And what was her name?
Her name was Roberta Hallam Kaiser. She was the most wonderful mother in the world. She was very soft-spoken, knowledgeable, wise about so many things that it's just unimaginable. She loved the tribe, worked for the tribe for many, many years, as did I, and loved her people, and was a very good teacher in the ways that we should practice.
What are some of your earliest memories growing up?
Of the powwow or of just of anything?
Your mom raising you.
My mom raising me. Well, for one thing, she invented iced coffee when she was young, and she was very good looking, very attractive, and she liked to lay out in the sun. And even in the summer, she would drink coffee, but she would percolate on the stove. I can remember this glass percolator, and you could see the coffee perking inside. And she would percolate some even in the summer. They'd have a cup of coffee, usually her and my dad, in the morning. And then all through the day, she would put ice in a glass and have her coffee. So powwows, activity-wise, I can remember, and I don't know the dates of when, I think they're kind of conflicting with what I remember. Someone mentioned the dates that we moved over here to Beaver Springs from across the river. Now, I can remember over there very vaguely, but I was thinking I was just maybe 8 or 10 years old. But some of the dates I've seen would make me older. But I don't really recall, but it was very, not... more primitive, much more primitive over there than after we moved over here. And my folks and Pokey Vallier and his wife at the time, Charm and Walter King, several people that were close friends with my parents, were on the powwow committee. And when we moved over here, thusly, that's why our camps are where they are, because we were some of the first people to build camps where they're located. Whitebirds built theirs by the road from us, and we built ours by the creek. Just people were here, there, and wherever they wanted to be. When after moving over here, so it was quite interesting. Like I say, I just vaguely remember being over there across the river, but after we moved over here, of course, they were very influential in all the powwows, and they were on the committees for several years. My dad would rent this huge tent, and from Cogalizer Tent Company. I can remember why I can remember that name, I don't know, but it was in Joplin. And it was kind of like a mini circus tent. And we would put our cots and things in there. And my mother, who did not really like to cook, and Charm, she didn't care. Of course, she had several children to cook for. But they would cook on the open fireplace every day. But the powwow committee, my dad and whomever, Pokey and whomever, would go to the grocery store in town in Quapaw, and they would, of course, money had to be raised to purchase anything or to even have a powwow. And there was a man in Joplin that had Jung's bunny bread. Ed Jung was his name, and he was a real good supporter of the tribe. And he donated all the bread for the powwow for all 3 days for rations. And of course, we had pie suppers and dances and all sorts of things to raise money to have the powwows, and volunteers to even just so much as drag electric wires to camps just so they could have a light bulb, not a trailer or an air conditioner or a fan or whatever, just so they could have a light bulb or a plug-in for a pot of coffee. And Skip Root and Hoot Gibson, who volunteered for security. I can remember them back in the day. Hoot Gibson was a hoot. I can understand why they called him that. He wore his khaki pants stuffed down in his cowboy boots and a gun to his hip, all the time, his gun, and an old sweaty cowboy hat. But they had, with the man in Quapaw at the grocery store that ran a grocery store, they would go every day and they got beef one day, pork one day, and chicken one day. And Ed Jung donated all the bread. He had it delivered down to our tent every morning before rations, so it would have been before 6 o'clock in the morning. But I can remember waking up and the smell of that fresh bread was just out of this world, and could hear the ladies laughing and visiting and standing in line, and the pots and pans clanking, and the kids running around and everything while they were waiting on their rations to get here, so they could pass them out. And we had big, huge bags of potatoes, and so everyone got meat, bread, and potatoes every day of the powwow. Of course, back then they cooked it during the day, so they had fireplaces all around. Every camp had fireplaces, and the ladies cooked. And when you had someone come to your camp, of course, visitors, they always sat down, and you were told that, if you were invited, you needed to eat something. Whether you had eaten 10 times if you were going from camp to camp, I guess you were supposed to eat something anyway. But we danced, of course, every night, and played during the day. They played Indian football, in which I have an Indian football from the Whitebirds, and this was handmade. Of course, it's full of horsehair, I would assume. I haven't opened it up, but I've had it for years and years, and treasure it as one of my favorite things from them. But playing football, Indian football, of course, as a kid, we played, but as a young person, a teenager. But I can remember them letting the elder ladies, which I guess I'd be in that category now, they would hide the ball under their apron, and then they'd escort them, from one goal post to the other, so the guys couldn't get them or attack them or anything. They might come up and run to get them, but they'd board them off, and they wouldn't let them get them. So that was always fun. Also, going to 5 Mile, that's where you went to take a bath and wash your hair, because you'd be dirty by the time the afternoon came, and you went down there below where the water ran off of the bridge, and could wash your hair and get all cleaned up to come back and get ready for the powwow that night. So it was just a very fun memories and very fun time to have.
Barbara, is that your phone?
Yes, that's my phone.
Do you want to go ahead and silence it? Just in case it.
I never even thought to think about it. Let's see, you pushed a little.
You mentioned 5 Mile.
Yeah.
That's part of my memories too.
Well, that's why I was like, man, I don't want to grow
That's a keeper. Repeat that.
I'm sorry about that.
You're fine.
Of course, you know, when you started to dance and you were you had to be prepared, and I don't know if one of the questions gets to dress and that kind of thing, but Pauline Whitebird, of course, she was Cherokee, but she was married to Bob Whitebird Sr. and knew probably more about Quapaws than a lot of Quapaws. And my mother and Midge Killo, my Aunt Mickey, would spend most 2 or 3 nights at least a week and during the winter, all winter, helping her make buckskin dresses. They made hundreds of buckskin dresses. The woman was amazing, and as a child, growing up, you know, from say 5 or 6 years old and up to 12 or 13, maybe even 14, sitting at this big dining room table, you know, covered with this old rug, watching these ladies bead, and they did. My mother's job was to cut fringe, because she could cut it like spaghetti, as you could see here on this. Do I have to hold this up? And every family, I'm told, and you know, this is just what I was told from learning it there. I mean, and that's how you learn something when you don't really realize you're learning it. I learned how to make buckskin dresses by sitting there while they were making buckskin dresses. Not necessarily like Aunt Polly, but each family had a design, and my mother created this one for us at the museum. Her dress is on display there, and it has the same design, only hers is white background. But this was our design, and that's passed down, you know, from generation to generation. You had a necktie and a little crown back in when I was, well, this would be, say, 70 years ago. You had a little crown and a belt. And then, of course, the bottom of the dress and the top. And Pauline Whitebird had made so many, and I guess like my mother had cut so much fringe, someone could come in, and I've seen it many times, and want a buckskin dress. And she'd say, well, okay, you know, what color, what's your favorite color, what do you like, you know, just ask questions. And then she'd kind of do her hands, you know, like this and this and this. And no tape measure, not until she got older. Now, I can recall kind of after she got a lot older. But my mother said she used to hold her breath because she had where she got her hides, they were just pure white and tanned, you know. This was white a long time ago. And she'd spread them out on this big table. She had a big dining room table. That's what they beaded on. And one on this end, one on each side, and I was usually somewhere. And Uncle Bob and my dad would go down in his basement of their home, and it was like a museum down there. And it was so sad that it got ruined. It got flooded by sewer water or something. But they would make, out of tin cans, they would make these jingles. These jingles are made out of coffee cans. And they would cut the strips, and then he had a jig, they called it, a pattern, to fold them, you know, and make them. And he and my dad would sit down there and visit for hours making jingles for the dresses that they were making. And the ladies would would make. But my mom said Aunt Polly would put these white hides out on this table, and she'd have her mind about this girl, and she had these scissors. Now, to me, they may just have been regular scissors, but as a kid, they looked like the blades of them were this long and sharp, very sharp. And she'd lay those hides out. And I can remember my mom, just like it was yesterday, she said I had to hold my breath. And she'd start cutting on these hides. Just cut with these big, long scissors. And when she got through, she'd hold it up, and it'd be right. Every time.